Hi there, Andre here from Peak Motorcycles. It's a beautiful day here in the Peak District, and this video is my first trail ride on my completely stock Royal Enfield Himalayan Scram 411. You can just about see it there behind me. I'm not going to do a close look at the bike here. I've got a separate video for that. So this video really is just me having a first go along this trail behind me. So this is part of the Trans-Euro Trail. It's a rocky, sort of sandy, bumpy trail. I was up here the other week with Lavi and Ollie, where they were trying out their V-Strom 1050 XT before their round the world trip. So I'm just going to ride from here over to Foxhouse and see what this bike is like with its stock tyres and stock suspension. The tyres are very much road orientated, although they do have a bit of grip on them. But in these dry, dusty conditions, I'm hoping they'll be fine. I'm just running the tyre pressures exactly as they came from the dealer a few minutes ago. So yeah, this should be interesting. I mean, I'm quite a heavy person. I don't expect the suspension is going to be absolutely incredible, but hopefully it's good enough, and hopefully this will give you an idea about what the bike is like off-road. Quite excited about this. Here we go. So here we go for the first trail ride along this old Houndkirk Road, and we'll see how this goes. Right then. So now when I compare this to the Andriani cartridges on my CRF 300, this does feel pretty rough. But then, you know, I kind of thought it might. On the plus side, the bike does feel very easy to manoeuvre over these rocks and through the little places where it's not quite as bumpy. So yeah, it's definitely not in the same league as my CRF 300. But then again, I didn't really expect it would be. After all, this is the urban version of the Himalayan. It will certainly trot along quite happily. Obviously this bike has no electronics. The gearing, in fact, second gear is quite long, so even once I'm up into second, that does feel like I'm hitting these bumps a little bit harder. But yeah, it's all good. It's a bit harder to speak, I'll give it that. There are some significantly rockier places along here. So we'll see how we go with this. I suppose I can always come back if I have to. Here's a bit of a bump. Yeah, you know what? That was okay. That was a bit of a clunk of a rock hitting the bash guard. But yeah, that seemed to be fine. And that putt-putt sound that the engine makes really is quite sweet. I mean, I'm barely doing, what's that, 15 miles an hour maybe? And it is just trundling. Now, on the rocks, I can certainly feel that this is more, I guess, road-focused suspension than something that's definitely made for off-road, but that's something that can be addressed, so that maybe this could become a sort of cheap and cheerful trail bike. So yeah, so as long as I'm sticking to the sandy bits, it's kind of fine. I know that this bike does actually have more ground clearance than my GS, believe it or not. So yeah, so I think over this rocky stuff it should be okay. I could probably do with slightly less tyre pressure, if I'm honest, but you know, this was your riding it exactly as it comes from the dealer. If you're thinking about what you might do with yours, then maybe this will give you a few insights. Thank you very much. And on we go. Fabulous view down over Sheffield this evening. Yeah, I can still hear a few rocks just pinging up and hitting the bash guard, but you know what? That's what it's there for. What I do need to be a little bit wary of is what the back brake is going to do, because I think there's yeah, that still needs to be bedded in. So that has a bit of not quite the stopping power. Oh yeah. Yeah, that front wheel's bobbing around a bit on that loose stuff. I know there's a bit more loose stuff at the corner down here. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Yeah, so this bit is rocky, lots of soft sand. But you know what? There's enough grip there, there's enough confidence. I mean, it could be better. Of course it could. Oop, that is a little unsettled, must admit. But yeah, good enough. Yeah, you know what? Over the little rocks it's okay. As soon as I hit some of the bigger, more bumpy stuff, it does seem to transmit it up through the frame and the forks. But you know what? This bike is never going to win any enduro competitions. I don't think it's ever supposed to be going fast off-road, and for trails like this it actually seems to be coping remarkably well. And this is a brand new bike out of the box, so this hasn't had any off-road modifications done to it, and yeah, that just rolls. Alright, then a first little bit of a hill, be a bit cautious over the soft stand. There's a couple of bumps here, there we go, bump over that. The second gear, that is just chugging up the hill, so I can see the GoPro on the bars shaking around a lot. It does have image stabilization, but we'll see how good that is in the edit. So yeah, that's just purring away in first. Doesn't feel like it's being strained. I am still running this bike in, so it's I'm not really looking to rev the nuts off it, I believe the term is. But actually, just for this, it's fine. I'm just going to stop here for a sec and take a couple of pictures. Hi there, so that's the first bit of the trail done. You can just see it behind me, so I've just come up there on the bike, and it's rough. It's rough around the edges, certainly, but it is doing what it's supposed to. You know, it's been perfectly fine. I've not felt unsafe, I've not been going very quickly, but yeah, it's been doing a grand job. So let's give you a close-up look at these tyres and the tread pattern. So the front is a CEAT, or seat, maybe it's pronounced, and it's called a Grip XLF. It is a nylon tyre, which I haven't really seen before, but hey, there's a first time for everything. Let's give you a close-up look at that tread. I mean, it's definitely more road focused, but it does have some blocks on it. And the front tyre here is a 100/19/19. So I'll wander around the back, and yeah, the one at the back also Grip XL at the back, it's called, also by CEAT, and yeah, similar sort of tread pattern just in there. I now have this to look forward to as part of my ride home. So yeah, looking forward to putting some more trail miles on the bike. Messing around with cameras, I should get back on the bike and ride this next section and the rocks and sand that it holds. I think I might need a wider side stand foot, maybe that's the first modification that I'll do. And off we go again, just bimbling over some rocks. I find a line through the middle of there. Whoop. Some of these are a little bigger, and that really is unsettling the bike, but I guess I kind of expected that, and I think if I potter I can probably just go around them. There is actually a cleaner line on that side. Maybe I'll have a ride along that instead. Actually, this looks okay. So yeah, on a gravel road like this, yeah, there's a bit of vibration, but it's actually a very easy bike to ride. There's a bit of a berm coming up. Let's see how it handles over these. Yeah, it's okay. I was bottoming out the suspension on my CRF 300 Rally over that when I was being a little more enthusiastic about it. I am still trying to take this easy. I don't really want to bottom out my suspension before the bike's made it home for the first time. So I know these bikes have been out for a while in India, and in the promo video they had people going over all sorts of cool stuff and bumping around, so I'd be interested to know how normal people, when they've had their bikes, how they get on with them, whether you're doing roads like this or trails like this. I mean, this here is considered a green lane in the UK, so it is open at the moment for vehicles to use, even though it's not paved. I know there are some moves afoot to try and limit vehicle access to lanes like this, but hopefully, you know, that won't be successful, and they will be allowed to keep them open for legal and quiet and respectable users such as myself. You know what, this just climbs over this sort of rocky, these stones are probably, I'm guessing, 20 to 50 millimeters diameter, something a bit more bumpy through here. There we go. But yeah, that was all, it's all taking it in its stride. It's bumping over a little bit, so yeah, I think maybe some other tyres, maybe some lower tyre pressures might help with some of this, but you know what, that wasn't half bad. I'm not going very quickly, I'm doing maybe 15 miles an hour I think over most of this. Well, certainly between 10 and 20. And then we get this amazing view out over the Hope Valley as we come over the top. So now I've just got a rundown on this side, and then I'll pull over, give you my final thoughts, and that will be the end of this trail ride test of the 2022 Royal Enfield Himalayan Scram 411. That is a bit of a mouthful, maybe I'll just call it a Scram from now on. And even on this off-camber slope, which you might not be able to see because it's in the dark, It's in the shadow. The tyres are gripping surprisingly well. I'm coming up to a gate, so probably best get back on the real trail. So there you have it. That's my first trail ride on the 2022 Royal Enfield Himalayan Scram 411, or the Scram 411. You can just see the lane behind me. This is over Houndkirk Moor on the outskirts of Sheffield, just coming into the Hope Valley, and this is all in the Peak District where I live. So let's be honest here, it's not an amazing trail bike. Even my CRF 300 Rally in stock form probably fared a bit better, but it had better tyres for it. It had different suspension, and this is, not really geared up for that. Having said that, to run over that road for the first time out on these nylon tyres that are running delivery pressures with no modifications whatsoever, it actually did really well. I'd quite happily go back and do that again, except I do need to get home. So yeah, that has been really, really fun. If you want to know whether this can ride trails like this, the answer is absolutely yes. I'm sure it could do with some upgrades, maybe some slightly different springs on the front end, maybe some tyres that are more suited to it, but all of that can come in time. For now, I've just had a whale of a time riding this bike back, so hopefully this has been interesting and useful. If it has, please check out my other content about the Royal Enfield Scram 411, because there'll be a lot more to come over the coming weeks and months. Thanks for watching. That is just chugging up the hill. There we go. Ran out a bit of energy there. Let's try it in first, shall we?